I'm Trinity Anderson, producer and narrator of Plog Vlog. I tell stories while my foster father and I pick up litter in places that don't always make it to the postcards. We recently published a recap episode if you'd like to see where we've been so far.
Today we're plugging the Lake Manchester Dam.
West of Brisbane, and starting to tell the next chapter of Mum's story. Manchester Dam is a quiet spot, kind of off-grid.
I don't think we're going to get onto the dam wall itself.
A dirt road in and ringed by dry woodland. Mostly hikers come here to explore the 50 or so kilometres of tracks surrounding the dam. This dam was constructed in 1916. Its original purpose was to supply drinking water to Brisbane and is still very much part of southeast Queensland's drinking water supply network. It forms one of the smaller but important components of the water grid for this part of Queensland and connects major dams across the region to ensure a reliable and flexible water supply. It's one of those places that feels like it's waiting for its next chapter, perhaps to provide water to Brisbane's growing population. People are increasingly moving to Brisbane from southern states that have recently been impacted more harshly by heat waves, fires, and floods. My foster father and I came to the dam because we figured that if people weren't going to remember places like this, that we might as well help them stay clean while they're being forgotten. We were wrong. This place isn't being forgotten, and it isn't being neglected. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. Not mostly. Because lately I've been deep in one of my mother's older journals, one of the few that's labelled. In large biro letters on the front, it says 1992, the Enlightenment. And in it, I started seeing the earliest hints of what she would become. A kind of restlessness, a desire to understand the world, not just travel it, but really get it.
Looks like someone's backpack.
Like something had snapped into place. It started by mentioning a book. She doesn't say the title, but she describes it as a philosophy course living an acute story. She writes that it was given to her by a Norwegian man she'd gotten to know, and that during his weekly visits, he was helping her learn his language so she could read it properly.
No made-up plastics. We all know there's a bit of echo here. You're an idiot! You're an idiot!
She writes, "He tells me that philosophy begins not with knowing, but with wonder.
That was from the Grinch.
That wonder is what happens when we stop sleepwalking through the world." The book he gave me says, "When our basic needs have been satisfied, will there still be something that everybody needs?" I keep coming back to that line. There's a churning desire inside me, despite having everything I need. It's telling me that survival isn't enough. That entry hit me hard, because I've been wondering the same thing lately. I'm studying to be a teacher, but with AI getting better and Australia's education system in decline, part of me wonders whether the job I'm training for will even exist in 10 years. Or if it does, whether it'll be worth doing. By the time I graduate, will AI be better at teaching than I ever could be? After he returns home from his job as a teacher, my foster father and I often talk about that.
No accent.
He says, "Adult humans have been teaching little people for thousands of years, and it still feels like we're fumbling around." Teaching is perhaps the second oldest profession, yet we haven't worked it out yet. Maybe AI is the only way we'll get it right. But I don't know.
Shame we can't walk out on there.
Sometimes it feels like society is moving toward a kind of comfortable pointlessness. Like we're all going to be fed, entertained, kept warm and busy, but empty. Like animals in a zoo. Clean cages, but no wilderness, no risk, no reason.
What are you?
And in that context, I wonder whether what we're doing, picking up other people's rubbish, actually matters.
Second.
But then I think, maybe that's the point. Maybe doing small, inconvenient, hopeful things is what does matter, especially when no one's watching.
Right, let's head on down. We've got to head on down.
Maybe that's how you escape the zoo. Not with a grand gesture, but by bending over to pick up a Mentos wrapper. My mum seemed to know this before I did. A few pages later in that same journal, she wrote, "I don't want to die having only ever paid bills, having told myself over and over that I was doing okay. I want to see the world. I want to touch things that I didn't know existed. I want to read books in languages I barely speak. I want my body to remember what it feels like to be confronted by awe."
So back towards car park.
It turns out philosophy was not the only thing that helped push her out the door
Perfect day for running in gumboots.
into a huge world. Because in the middle of that journal, on those 2 pages where the staples threatened to prick you and draw blood, was a scrawled entry dated Saturday, 29th of August, 1992.
Someone's been riding ponies.
She had just called her childhood friend, David.
A lotto ticket.
He'd told her he was selling his house, that his girlfriend Claire had gone overseas with her parents, and he was intensely envious of her getting to travel to the UK, that he'd always dreamed of travelling the world, but it had never occurred to him that he had the resources, until now, that it was finally time. Mum wrote, "When I called him, he said he was selling up and leaving, that he couldn't stand watching someone else live his lifelong dream. Said something about not wanting to be 60 and wondering what would have happened if he'd just gone." When I hung up the phone, my heart was thudding. It was like an atom had just split inside me, exploding energy and intention. I need to escape this comfort, get out of the Gold Coast and into whatever's out there.
Good morning. Good, I'm just running and picking up rubbish at the same time.
Good job.
They call it plogging.
I need a bigger life. She wrote at length about how she, like David, had the resources but hadn't previously thought about using them for something other than buying more and more meaningless stuff that only weighed her down. There's no mention of how she got those resources.
Trinity is behind me, so I'll sneak in past this side. Have a good day.
There aren't a lot of entries in her journal between that phone call in August 1992 and when she boarded her first international flight in April 93. And not long after that,
There's one. Coffee mug lid.
she was tapping on the door of a cheap hotel room in Hawaii, excited to chat about the experience with David. She wrote, "Flying was strange. The sky is so big when you're in it, and yet the world feels smaller when you land. It's a contradiction I can't stop thinking about. One second I'm in Brisbane, then I'm in Honolulu. Like I blinked and stepped through a door I couldn't sleep."
More pony tracks. Now, there's a waterway. If there's any washdown rubbish, it'll be along here, I reckon.
I kept rereading my tattered philosophy book, still struggling a little to interpret Norwegian without Eric there to help me.
No, it's a little feather.
I'm underlining the parts that resonate inside me, like where Sophie reads in a letter. And most important, how ought we to live?
No, stick.
The door opened. David stood aside to let Liz in. Claire was sitting on the bed getting ready to untie her light brown boots. It didn't go smoothly.
Or anything? There's a wash down along here. We're washing that way, actually.
Mum wrote in her diary, "I went to their room, knocked. David opened the door.
I'm not going to get that. So I think I can get this.
He'd been expecting me. Then Claire saw me and yelled, 'What the hell is she doing
That's
here?'
someone else's job, unfortunately.
She grabbed her backpack, hadn't even unpacked, and stormed out. David followed,
No, go back before you run out of battery, Trinity.
left his stuff on the bed, keys on the table. I sat there, wondering what I was supposed to do. I realised that he'd probably neglected to tell her I was coming. Such a typical David thing to do. Then I heard sirens, people shouting outside. Something had happened. Someone stabbed, apparently. The place filled with police. It was like stepping into a different story. A chaotic one. After reading that in Mum's diary, I went straight to Google. I found out that the victim was 44-year-old Joanna Larson-Hamink from Minnesota. A man named Brian Luton had entered her unlocked hotel room intending to rob someone. He was discovered by Joanna's daughter and husband, and somehow ended up fatally stabbing Joanna in the heart.
Let's go over the horse one.
Mum didn't know this at the time and wrote in her diary,
But the ponies come over.
David came back the next morning. Looked like he hadn't slept. Said he'd followed Claire to the airport. He'd just shrugged and said, "It was on the rocks anyhow. This trip was always the other woman in our relationship. It's not your fault."
Just ran 650 metres.
Then, he went out again saying that he needed a long walk to sort it out in his head. Yesterday, I asked a much older David about this. He laughed and said, "Adventure has been the other woman in all my relationships. Some women accepted that, most didn't."
I'm calling this an oasis. This is definitely an oasis. Almost no rubbish.
And that'll do for this part of the story, at least for now. If you'd like to know more about what happened before, there's that recap episode that I mentioned earlier. Or you might want to watch the previous videos in full. I suggest starting with another dam we plogged, Manchester Dam. That's where I took over this channel from my foster father.